the hugs, the handshakes, and the high-end technology for India. Is the India-US relationship poised to take off altogether to a new level? From the ramparts of the Red Fort, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had declared, "Yahi samay hai, sahi samay hai, Bharat ka ye anmol samay hai." This is the right time, the crucial time. This is India's moment. Is there a realization, even in the United States of India, even in the United States of America, that India is the reliable strategic partner of choice in the 21st century? And not just to checkmate China, but to benefit democracies across the world. The countdown has begun for Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 7th visit, the first state visit to the US, ahead of the Prime Minister's special aircraft landing in New York. India Today gets you a ground report. India Today's Rahul Kanwal and Geeta Mohan join me for more on this 2-hour-long special broadcast. But first, as always, the headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's special aircraft about to land in New York. Big trade and defense deals to be signed. Dinner with Joe Biden and joint address to the US Congress on the agenda. Big setback to Mamata Banerjee. Supreme Court rejects the state poll panel's plea and upholds the Calcutta High Court order on deployment of central forces ahead of the upcoming Panchayat elections. Siddaramaiah government and BJP lock horns over free rice under Anna Bhagya scheme. Karnataka Chief Minister now seeks rice supply from other states. Bihar Deputy Chief Minister Tejasvi Yadav meets the Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin in Chennai. Nitish Kumar skips the all-important meeting but says important for opposition parties to remain united to remove the BJP. Maharashtra government orders an SIT probe into the alleged 12,000 crore rupee BMC COVID scam. Uddhav Thackeray slams these allegations, says they will take to the streets to protest. The 5 million strong Indian American community has been described as the glue that binds India and the United States together. The 50 lakh strong Indian Americans are true ambassadors of both the countries, of India and the United States of America. And a number of them have now lined up outside the Prime Minister's hotel to receive Prime Minister Narendra Modi. I now want to quickly cut across to New York, where India Today's news director Rahul Kanwal is in conversation with some of the members of the Indian American community who've gathered there to receive Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Let's quickly listen in.
I see you've got a painting you put together for Prime Minister Modi. You hope to give this to him?
Yes, sir.
Very nice. What inspired you to draw this?
I do a bunch of paintings for different athletes, and I decided to do something for the Prime Minister when I heard he's coming here.
So you've been here earlier as well for the Prime Minister's previous visit?
Yes, when he came here and our team performed the Garba.
I remember
Yes,
you guys...
He took my interview. And you were the one who took my interview also at TV Asia.
Wonderful. You want to just show us that painting and describe, so what does, you're an Indian American, right? So what does Modi mean to you?
He means a lot, just living in America and just seeing him as a big political figure in America and representing a lot of Indian people who live in America too. It's definitely very impactful that he's coming here.
Interesting. Last time you guys had the Garba, how were you preparing to welcome the Prime Minister when he comes in a short while from now?
Yes, we are so excited to welcome our Prime Minister, and we are gathered here in New York City, and we are very excited to welcome him.
Okay, what are you making of the manner in which Indo-US ties...
He is the one who drew this picture.
Oh, that's amazing. That's quite interesting. The level of enthusiasm amongst the Indian American community is very high. And remember, this is a Prime Minister who's now been in power for 9 years. So I remember this kind of enthusiasm when we'd come for the Madison Square Garden meeting, which happened in September 2014. Since then, the level of enthusiasm is still the same. plateaued, gone up, come down?
It's absolutely gone up, and I think we don't consider him just a leader for India, but he's done such good work in India, and he's helped out the world during the hard times of COVID, that he's a global leader, according to us. He's no longer just Prime Minister of India, Republic of India.
You know, the diaspora has been one of the big areas of support. In fact, I spoke to Eric Garcetti, the American ambassador to India, and he said that his phone was ringing off the hook as people were trying to get their hands on that state dinner invitation. And apparently when President Biden met Prime Minister Modi in Japan for the G7 visit, that's something that he said as well, that Prime Minister, you're very popular, lots of people want to be at that state dinner. So how are you preparing, ma'am, to welcome the Prime Minister when he comes in a while from now?
So we all are preparing especially for the yoga day tomorrow. That
You'll be doing yoga as well?
now we will be watching Mr. Modi and supporting yoga day with him, and that will be, I think, along with our rest of the Indian community, it's also spreading word of yoga within American community as well, and how yoga benefits the people. So I think that everybody's enthusiastic about tomorrow.
Do yoga ordinarily, or is it just because of the International Yoga Day?
No, actually,
Do you all do yoga ordinarily, or is it just because the Prime Minister is here and because of International Yoga Day?
No, I do yoga every day. Actually, the instructor that I am working with is from India. So in the morning I do 6 to 7 yoga with him. But not only that, this gonna be and as yoga is rooted in India, and this is a very good opportunity for us to celebrate this International Yoga Day in presence of Mr. Modi in the heart of New York City in Manhattan.
That will be at the United Nations headquarters early tomorrow morning, and the India Day team will be here in New York tracking this for our viewers back home and across the world. Young man, all the best with that painting. I hope you can get close to the Prime Minister and hand it to him. You've obviously made it with a lot of love and joy. Yes, I hope you managed to give it to him, and thank you, ma'am, for coffee.
And I must say that we are here mainly from Federation of Indian Associations of New York, New Jersey and Connecticut and New England, and we are actually one of the main organizations for this event.
Some of the opposition parties are saying that people are getting paid to be here, that they're getting money to be here.
No.
To be here.
Yes,
We have taken days off just to be here. We were here yesterday, we have been here today, we'll be here tomorrow, we'll be going to Washington DC. So we've taken a 1 week off from work just to support our Prime Minister.
Quite
But as you see that this many interviews is going on, no one mentioned about BJP. Everyone is just talking about Narendra Modi. So it's not for us, it's not a Congress versus BJP. We just support a Modi.
Interesting. So we're going to wrap up. Thank you so much for joining us. We wish you all the best, and we look forward to seeing you over the course of the next couple of days.
White House Coordinator for Strategic Communications John Kirby has lauded India, saying India is emerging as a critical superpower. He claimed over the years India-US ties have strengthened, and the United States is all set to discuss issues that are very critical to both the countries, including health, education, climate change, security and defense partnership. The White House has confirmed that defense is high on the agenda of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's state visit to the United States of America. Let's quickly listen in to John Kirby.
We're hosting India for an official state visit to put our cooperation on an inexorable trajectory as we support India's emergence as a great power that will be central to ensuring U.S. interests in the coming decades. After years of strengthening our ties, the United States-India partnership is deeper and more.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has landed in New York. The Prime Minister on board Air India One has just landed in New York. Very, very important visit that U.S. Secretary of Defense described as transformational. This visit will actually take India-US relations to a new level. Both White House and India have described this visit as extremely significant. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, before he embarked on this visit, had spoken about how this is India's moment. Now, there are several important aspects to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit. Of course, it kickstarts with the event at the UN headquarters. I quickly now want to cut across to India Today's Foreign Affairs editor, Geeta Mohan, joining us live from New York. Geeta, extremely important visit. The Prime Minister, we are told, has just landed. How's the excitement where you are with the Indian American community, Geeta?
Well, they are quite excited. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has landed. I'm standing right in front of the hotel where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be arriving in sometime from now, Gaurav. The Indian community has gathered here. Some of them have gone inside too. There are some others who will be turning up in a while. What we're given to understand or being told is that the Prime Minister might step down and greet the Indian community here. But the entire area, if you see the streets, absolutely cordoned off. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Niyati Agarwal.
How excited are you
I am so excited
to see Prime Minister Modi?
I'm so very much excited and I'm here to support him, and he's our Prime Minister, and as an NRI, right, when I look up to my country, and in last 9 years, I have seen and we have witnessed the tremendous change and development, and not just India. He is following the ideology of Hindu Dharma, like Vasudev Kutumbakam, like entire what is the one family. So he is in the global forum, he is bringing all the nations together to fight against terrorism, to fight against hunger and women empowerment. So he is our Prime Minister, and through your channel, I would like to appeal my India's Janta ki please next year vote wisely, come for the vote.
Okay, all right.
Beyond the politics and beyond the casteism, please vote wisely. And ऐसा नेता हमें सालों में नहीं मिलता. And please vote करिए और अच्छे लोगों को लाइए, भारत को विश्व गुरु बनाइए.
So Gaurav, okay, Ghar Ghar Modi, Har Har Modi. The Indian community quite excited over here. If I could just pan and show the media contingent, if you can see, my colleague Shweta Singh also right behind me, but there are many others. And then there are those who have come wearing jackets with Prime Minister Modi, and I have been reporting on that. But if you just see, they're also live with other news networks. There you go. So a lot of people with various color, expression, trying to project India's culture. But it all comes down to what is going to happen here in New York and then in Washington, D.C. Gaurav, the first state visit is going to be very important. There is like Foreign Secretary Vinay Kwatra said, it's not just form but also substance. But then the substance, we'll have to wait and see how that really turns out. There are some major deals that would be signed between the two sides. But if we're looking at the defense cooperation, India is pushing for manufacturing in India, sourcing from India, and for the United States of America. If the Predator drone deal goes through, $3 billion is what America is looking at. So a lot of money at stake over here, but also an upward movement and uptick in the relations between India and the United States of America.
Geeta, stay with us and feel free to chip in. Let me bring into this conversation Ambassador Veena Sikri, joining us on the broadcast, former top diplomat. Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain is former Kashmir Corps Commander, joins me on the show. Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha is former Flag Officer Commanding-in-Chief of Western Naval Command. He's a naval aviator. So three of the finest voices on India-America relationship also joining us on this special broadcast. But Ambassador Sikri, let me begin by asking you, ma'am, how is this visit any different from the past 6 visits of Prime Minister Narendra Modi? Yes, it's a state visit, but is this just symbolism, or is there much, much more to it?
No, it is not just symbolism. I think in the American system, the fact of declaring it a state visit is very special. It's an honor reserved for very, very few people, and you can see the number of state visits versus official visits. There are a lot of official visits. They receive friendly visitors at the highest level all the time. But state visit is much beyond symbolism. And I think that this time it is reinforced by a number of other factors. The second address by our Prime Minister to the Joint House of Congress as very special, and also the hype that has been built up, the expressions of friendship coming from the White House, the discussions. I think if you take it from January onward, just of this year, I'm not even talking of previous years, the setting up of the initiative on critical and emerging technologies, that was very special, and that has set the entire tone for the visit, focusing on high technology, transfer of technology, artificial intelligence, acquisition of drones, and making it sure that India and USA share something which has rarely been shared with other countries before. Now, let's take the transfer of technology of the GE engines for the Tejas fighter aircraft. Now, that's something that has not been done for many people before. There's still discussion. Will it be 100% transfer of technology? Will it be 80%? We'll know in about 48 hours maybe. Okay. But the very fact that transfer of technology is being discussed is a very rare moment indeed. And
so I think it's a very rare moment indeed in this relationship. Admiral Sinha, is this then the litmus test of where India-US relations stand today? And the trajectory of that relationship, I mean, is it set to take off altogether to a new level? Depends on whether the Predator drone deal happens, whether the transfer of technology takes place on the GE414 engines, sir?
Well, thank you, Gaurav, for getting me on your program. This is a recognition by the United States of America that India is the country which can ensure peace and stability in Indo-Pacific, and especially in the Indian Ocean region. And therefore, it serves the larger interest of United States of America of, free and open sea and, no restriction on movement of ships and trade, etc., etc. And US has realized that alone it cannot achieve the full spectrum of peace and stability in Indo-Pacific, and they are in need of the partners who are democratic, partners who share the view of free and open seas, and very much people should be able to talk to each other, should not be encroaching into anybody's territory. Okay. So therefore, I think that here the transfer of technology and other issues or other things on the cards, which Ambassador Veena Sikri mentioned, I think is going to see the raising of the platform of the Indo-US relation manifold. And if anything happens, it will happen beyond that level, which we are likely to achieve at the end of PM's visit. Gaurav.
General Hasnain, is this to checkmate China? Are two powerful democracies coming together to checkmate an expansionist force that threatens not just India, but even the United States of America now? General Hasnain, I think you're on mute. Request you to press the unmute button before you go on, sir. Okay, General, we'll take a moment to reestablish that link with you. But Geeta, I believe lots of Indian Americans described as the glue that binds India and the US together. I hear a lot of Bharat Mata Ki Jai chants that are coming from the US. But Geeta, is this to checkmate China?
Well, it certainly is. Now, Daniel Markey, Gaurav, had written a very important article, and he said that let's not emphasize on shared values. There are shared interests, and that's what's driving America closer to India. It has to do with countering China, not to do with the fact that we are two democracies, because the democracies are different, our forms of government are different, our culture and our values are very different. So instead of harping on shared values, let's harp on shared interests. Let's not tell the world that it is only because of shared values and that India and US are two democracies that they have come together, that there are varied and very important critical interests involved, particularly to do with how to counter China. In that, India and the United States of America see eye to eye. We do have a huge problem with China at the border. And America has a huge problem with China when it comes to Taiwan and the Taiwan Straits, as also the entire Indo-Pacific. That
Let me bring in Ambassador Sikri once again. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin described this relationship as, transformational. How is this relationship transformational in your view at this stage? And in your appreciation, Ambassador Sikri, did the events at Galwan in 2020 remove any hesitation, if at all, on the Indian side that India and America need to be together?
I think I would like to add this word about China. I think that a number of geopolitical and geoeconomic factors have come together to create this rare moment in Indo-US bilateral relations. Yes, the Galwan events of 2020 were certainly a shocking eye-opener for India, because nobody had expected this break away from the agreements that India and China had concluded about peace and tranquility on the borders. And it was a tremendously, and it was also agreed, and for 30 years there had been no violence at the border, no weapons were being used. But we saw at Galwan that, maybe they kept the letter of the law, but the spirit of the agreements was completely broken when they came with all those very terribly fashioned weapons meant to harm, meant to kill, and attack our people. Of course, our Indian soldiers gave everything back, an eye for an eye, and much more than that. And we remember our martyred souls with great reverence, because they saved us at that crucial moment. But then it also showed to us what China's intentions really were. And I think this has been an eye-opener. It also exposed, and this is something that our Prime Minister had been talking about for a long time before that, about the need for modernization in the Indian Defense Forces, the need for modernization of technology, the need for building infrastructure at the border. So, and I think this aggressive face of China was simultaneously being shown in other parts of the world, in the South China Sea, for example. And I think the South China, this event also gave India a big jolt, and the Quad we see after this gathering momentum. Because, before that it was India, and the previous government had always had many opinions about it. So we do see at this time that all these factors have come together. It fitted China, it fitted USA very well, because USA themselves were seeing what China had been doing by stealing American technology.
Absolutely. The world is watching these images very, very closely this moment. Ambassador Sikri and General Hasnain and Admiral Sinha. This is Air India 1. It's landed at New York. The Prime Minister, K7066 Air India 1, with India written so proudly on that aircraft. It's landed in New York. The Prime Minister will come to this hotel now, and the moment he reaches, there is no rest for the Prime Minister. He's meeting a number of CEOs and intellectuals and thought leaders in the United States of America today. Then it's the International Yoga Day at the UN headquarters tomorrow. And then his events continue virtually non-stop. But General Hasnain, you share Ambassador Sikri's view that Galwan jolted India the moment China behaved in that manner, that India and America need to be together to checkmate China. Is that what is happening right now, sir?
I hope, Gaurav, you can hear me now.
Strength 5, loud and clear, sir.
Yeah. There's no doubt about it. I agree entirely with what Ambassador Sikri has just said. And there's no doubt also that it is China which is the elephant in the room. With its presence, there's no doubt that that is the essential threat that both the countries are looking at. But it's something a little more than that. I would say that this particular visit is all about establishing trust even further. The classic thing about Prime Minister Modi's tenure of 9 years has been that he has gone through 3 American presidents, progressively improving the relationship, the trust between India and America. We are now in 2023. We are looking perhaps at the years sometime around 2035 or so. This build-up up to that time when China would probably be a major player, will be a major threat for most of the world. We've got to be looking at that commonality together. And it's because of that the United States and India today are working on that trust. You are hearing of people like Ashley telling us that India is not going to be a reliable partner. We have to ensure that the United States continues to believe, just as India believes, that both of us can get our act together to ensure peace in the world as the two largest democracies of the world.
This is something that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has spoken of, Admiral Sinha. The Prime Minister said when two powerful democracies come together, India and the United States of America, it's not just to benefit each other, but it's also to benefit the entire world. But if we were to talk about keeping sea lanes of communication open, if we were to talk about checkmating an expansionist China in the Indo-Pacific, how would China be looking at these images right now and the images that will unfold over the next 48 hours, Admiral Sinha?
Very closely, they are watching very closely. I was watching the CGTN a little while ago on the YouTube, and the previous foreign minister, Wang Yi, he has been cautioning that America is pulling India to checkmate China, and this is not the good thing for India to be joining that gang, joining that lot. So there is a lot of worry because they do not know what is the extent of the negotiations or the agreements which are going to be signed. They are talking about jet engine, but they aren't talking about the sale of the drones, artificial intelligence. They aren't talking about the emerging technologies, communication, 5G, 6G, and so many, so many other things which are likely to happen. So I think that the point that is broader point, that America has realized that India is a very suitable partner for maintaining peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific, to make sure that sea lanes of communication are open to global commons, so that the trade and therefore in turn the prosperity of the world does not get hampered. And his Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is very much the broader the broader aspect of this entire getting together with the Americans.
Okay, but the point that General Hasnain was raising, Ambassador Sikri, and I want to quickly bring in Geeta Mohan also into this conversation. Ambassador Sikri, Ashley Tellis saying or using words to the effect, and somebody who played a very critical role at one point of time in firming up the ties between the two countries, talking about the India-US civil nuclear deal at that time, right now saying India is not a reliable partner. Just because India has an independent foreign policy on Russia-Ukraine or on Russian oil, are we seen as unreliable? Is that a genuine apprehension in the US?
I know. I think Ashley Ellis has made a wrong assessment. I think a lot of his co-partners on the think tank circuit have also come to the same conclusion, that there is absolutely no reason for him to say that India is not a reliable partner. In fact, India is renowned for its reliability. It's renowned for its principled stand on all issues. I mean, let's take even the stand that India has taken on the Russia-Ukraine war. It may be different from the US stand, but the US appreciates India's stand. The US accepts India's stand, and the USA fully goes along with what India is doing. They understand what India is doing. And Prime Minister Modi's statement to President Putin of Russia that this is not the era of war, that we stand for peace through dialogue and diplomacy. Now, this has been appreciated the world over, and I think today India is being recognized more and more as a big factor that could bring about peace in the Russia-Ukraine war. So I think that this is all a reflection of the trust and affection and high regard in which Prime Minister Modi is held by his equals around the world, by heads of government and heads of state around the world. And this is the great standing in which India is being held in the USA. And we are seeing it not only in statements by the Indian diaspora, who are so wonderfully active, as we can see on your screen, but also by the statements by American leaders, by this, both houses of Congress. It's a bipartisan opinion on India. This is amazing, because today, when the Democrats and the Republicans are at each other's throats on anything political, in America, and they're completely polarized. But on India, they have complete unanimity of opinion, and they are writing to the president, all of them, across the board, saying, please develop the relationship, please strengthen the relationship. We think we need to do more and more. And even some American members of Congress who earlier on were not so well disposed to India have changed their mind and have now thrown in completely with India in favor of strengthening the Indo-US bilateral partnership in all areas.
Okay.
And I think that the reflection of the progress in the Quad is a tremendous reflection of the high regard which India is held with in the rest of the world, which will be reflected, I'm sure, in the decisions of this visit that Prime Minister Modi has just started. He has just landed in New York, and we welcome that.
Okay. You know, if we were to just break this down in terms of military hardware for a moment, the Striker armored fighting vehicles, the joint, the JDAMs, the munition, the ammunition that India is talking about, the unmanned combat aerial vehicles, and 30 of those, whether it's the Reapers, the Predators, or the Sea Guardians. General Hasnain are okay. This is the latest image that we are just getting from New York. Images of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's convoy. That's the convoy that has arrived to receive Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and this convoy will take him to his hotel. This is a state visit, the first state visit by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Its significance, symbolism, the impact, the assessment in the United States of America, and what Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been saying all along, that this is India's moment. General Hasnain, the military hardware, is it all aimed at China?
See, Gaurav, from 1991, when General Kekalaitar visited India and commenced the whole process of re-establishing the Indo-American strategic relationship. At that time it wasn't such, but the relationship only got established much later. But since then, the kind of progress that we have made has been tremendous. It's now that the real cementing and the fructification is taking place on the basis of the trust which has been established over the last 30 years or more. I would say yes, definitely all the hardware that you have just spoken about, not only that, but in the recent past, the aircraft, the helicopters which have come, the anti-ship missiles which we have received, and now the aircraft engines. And of course the drones, the 31 drones that we are likely to receive at a cost of, well, almost $3.5 billion. It shows that the trust between the two countries has reached a level where India now has the confidence of the United States. And obviously there's no doubt about it that the major part of the targeting is towards the threat which comes from China. When you look at international geopolitics, Gaurav, it's a question of a balance of power. China is trying its best to ensure that it tilts the balance of power towards itself. Okay. Now, the game is going on where India is virtually like a swing power. It's a country which, whichever side it goes, whichever side it cooperates with, whichever side with which it establishes a trust, is the one which will probably have a greater balance, a greater part of the balance of power. And that is what is the importance of Indo-American relations today. Obviously, therefore, the weaponry which you talk about is establishing a huge trust between the two countries, and this is just the beginning. Transfer of technologies are going to take place, defense manufacturing is going to take place.
That's the aspect I was coming to, the defense manufacturing. Fighter jet engine technologies, and since you're a fighter pilot yourself, Admiral Sinha, from HF-24 experience to LCA to Kaveri engine not coming, how would you as a fighter pilot view this? What kind of transfer of technology are you looking at? And does this mean that America is actually opening its home and its heart for India if jet engine technology is being shared?
Gaurav, this is a very major breakthrough. Nobody would share the minor sort of details which goes in making the jet engine. You know, the manner in which the titanium alloy is bent, the manner in which it is, the angles are achieved for the air to pass through, the burnt air. So I think that I would say that this is a big transformation. It's going to give India the capability of making more types of jet aircraft in the future. Immediately to engine the Tejas aircraft, both Tejas land version and the shipboard version. But I have a feeling that it will also help in developing further to get you the AMCA. One more point that I wanted to make, just an addition, you mentioned about is China the target. Gaurav, China is not the target. China is actually the catalyst in all this relationship. This relationship was moving gradually, as General Atta Hasnain mentioned. But in fact, I go back to 1993 when we first started the Malabar exercise as a bilateral naval exercise.
Yes.
And look at it where it has reached. Now it has become a multinational. So I would say that this would have happened. This would have happened maybe later if China was not the catalyst. So catalyst has actually increased the pace of reaction. I mentioned this to one of their state councillor, Dai Bingu, who was the boundary negotiator. He had asked me once. He said, "When do you think Quad will become militarized?" I mentioned to him, "Excellency, it all depends on China. It depends on your country. The faster you needle us, the faster we'll become militarized." So I think the time has come to take that trust to a level where you see the jet engine. Not only this, there will be a lot of high technology transfer or co-development and co-production, particularly in artificial intelligence, 5G, 6G communication networks, which is, yet to see the world. So I think that, we are actually looking for a very different kind of India-US relation and different kind of India as a prepared military power. Gaurav.
Okay. In a moment, I'll cross over to Geeta Mohan reporting live from New York. We hear a lot of chanting of Vande Mataram and Bharat Mata Ki Jai. But before I do that, Ambassador Sikri, India and the United States of America. Ambassador Sikri, I want to understand from you, how would China be reacting to all of this? Would China give us more pinpricks at the line of actual control? We saw what happened at Doklam in 2017, Galwan in 2020. Or will China now reassess its strategy vis-a-vis India?
Well, I think that China internally is going through a very difficult time, and I think that China's internal economy is not showing any signs of revival. It's certainly not showing the signs of revival that the government had hoped for in the post-COVID phase. So they are very worried about the internal situation. Employment for the youth is falling. About 25% of the youth category remains unemployed. So they have great worry. I think there's a lot of expectation, and this is normally their reaction, to be aggressive externally to cover up for the internal difficulties and to show some successes on the aggression front externally to cover up the situation. Now, with Galwan, that may have been one of the reasons, but it didn't succeed.
Record kar do, I'll toss to it.
Yeah. So now I think China is seriously worried about what we have seen from their statements. They have not hesitated to make the most difficult statements and warning India and warning the USA. And of course, we also saw that the Secretary of State of the USA, Anthony Blinken, was in China till yesterday or day before. So there is also that effort to smooth out the relationship with the USA. But that has not made any impact on the India-USA relationship. The India-USA relationship stands on its own accord. So while China is worried, while China is making all the noises...
Ma'am, give me a moment. I've just been able to establish a link with Aaj Tak. My colleague Shweta Singh speaking to the diaspora. Let's listen in.
गुरु, ये मैसेज बहुत क्लियर दे रहा है और नरेंद्र भाई के नेतृत्व में, क्योंकि मैं किसी अभी पार्टी से नहीं बिलोंग करता हूं, मैं एक स्वयंसेवक हूं, मतलब कि एक भारत के सेवक हूं और 25 साल से यहां रहता हूं और मुझे पता है कि परिवर्तन बहुत ही अद्भुत हुआ है और परमात्मा से यही निमंत्रण करते हैं कि हमारे डायस्पोरा की भी उम्र उन्हें लगे और भारत जगत गुरु जल्दी से जल्दी बने।
पावर उन्होंने दी है वर्ल्ड में, जैसे हिंदी को यूएन में बनाना, योगा को लाना, that has created a different aura here as well as a different recognition for the Indian Americans here. और कल भी आप देखोगे 2500 people who are invited in the UN, right? That's a big change.
योग दिवस के लिए भी निमंत्रण। और दूसरी चीज, एक और अहम चीज इसमें समझने की जरूरत है कि अगर यहाँ पर जो अखबारों की सुर्खियां हैं वो योग दिवस को अहमियत देते हैं तो उसमें एक भारत के लिए गर्व की बात भी जुड़ जाती है, क्योंकि एक लंबी प्रक्रिया रही, एक बहुत लंबी कोशिश रही, लेकिन उसके बाद आखिरकार जब ये मुकम्मल हुआ और अब एक बार फिर उसी यूनाइटेड नेशंस के हेडक्वार्टर्स पर योग दिवस का आयोजन जब होगा, जब प्रधानमंत्री उसका नेतृत्व करेंगे और वहां पर योग कर रहे होंगे सब, तो इसकी ओर सबकी निगाहें हैं। जिस तरह से हमने आपको बताया कि जिस सॉफ्ट पावर की हम बात कर रहे हैं, जो डिप्लोमेसी है, उसकी शुरुआत तो कल जाकर हो जाएगी, लेकिन जो उसका एक सांस्कृतिक पहलू भी आपको देखने के लिए मिलेगा आज से लेकर कल तक में। ये सारी चीजें नजर आएंगी। प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी का विमान लैंड कर चुका है और प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी अब अपने होटल की ओर रवाना हो रहे हैं। इस दौरे के अनेकों पहलू हैं, अनेक पहलू हैं जिस पर हमारी नजर है। जो चीजें यहां पर हो रही हैं उन सारी चीजों के बीच किस तरीके से न केवल प्रधानमंत्री के नाम का शोर, बल्कि जब आप भारत माता की जय का वो जयकारा सुनते हैं और जब यहां पर जो आम यहाँ के रहने वाले लोग हैं जो भारतवंशी नहीं है बल्कि विदेशी ही जिन्हें हम कहेंगे, उन लोगों को भी जब इस बात का एहसास हो कि किस संस्कृति, किस संस्कार, किस योग की बात यहाँ पर हो रही है, तो उन सारी चीजों के बीच उभरता हुआ वो भारत का ताकत आपको महसूस हो जाएगा और इसे ही सॉफ्ट पावर कहा जाता है। प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी का विमान लैंड किया था जिसकी तस्वीर हमने आपको दिखाई और अब विमान से निकलते हुए आप प्रधानमंत्री को देख सकते हैं। जैसे हमने आपको बताया कि एक बहुत लंबी यात्रा, बेहद लंबी यात्रा, लगभग समझ लीजिए 7 समंदर पार करके हजारों किलोमीटर का सफर तय करके एक समय काल से दूसरे समय के क्षेत्र में आप प्रवेश करते हैं और उस सब के बीच आपको यहां पर आते ही आज मुलाकातों का उनका सिलसिला शुरू हो जाएगा। उनकी ओर से जिस तरह का इंटरव्यू दिया गया और उसके बाद जिस तरह के लोगों से उनकी मुलाकात की बात यहां पर है, उसमें आराम नहीं है उनको यहां पर आने के बाद भी। यहां पर
The first images that you see of Prime Minister Narendra Modi stepping out of Air India One, that's the image that you see on your television screen. The Prime Minister has landed in New York. Extremely crucial visit. You can hear the excitement in the voice of the Indian Americans who are also filming this. That's the Prime Minister's entourage, protected by his own SPG, the Indian American community proudly waving the national tricolor. In fact, some of them were hoping to get to talk to the Prime Minister here, but that clearly is not happening. We are told that may happen. The Prime Minister does spare a moment or two. He interacts with the Indian American community briefly before he heads into this hotel. We were reporting in 2016 in New York when the Prime Minister actually stepped out of his cavalcade, and quite a nightmare for his security detail because the crowds just surged to take selfies with the Prime Minister. And I want to once again cut across to India Today's Geeta Mohan for more on this before I bring in our guests into this conversation once again. Geeta, take it away. We see a lot of dance, song and dance also happening outside the Prime Minister's hotel.
Well, that's right. Every time Prime Minister Modi comes, the Indian diaspora organizes itself outside the hotels, whether it's in New York or Washington, D.C. If I can just show you the extent of the number and magnitude that you and I have reported in the past from 2014 up until now, Gaurav. But this year, in terms of the numbers, the area that's been cordoned off for the Indian diaspora is much less. It's much smaller, but you can see them dance over here. So they're all dancing, they're all enjoying the moment and waiting for Prime Minister Narendra Modi to come. They are expecting that Prime Minister Modi, when he enters from that space over there, will stop and meet and greet them. But we're also being told, Gaurav, that there are some of them who are inside the hotel, and so Prime Minister Modi could very well greet them inside the hotel or meet them for a brief period inside the hotel. But again, this is India's soft power diplomacy. The Indian diaspora trying to...
So the Prime Minister stepping out of Air India One, received by India's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Ruchira Kamboj, Ambassador Taranjeet Singh Sandhu, India's ambassador to the United States of America, the defense attaché, the ministers of the Indian mission in New York and in Washington, D.C. And the Prime Minister is then escorted to his vehicle before he's taken to his hotel in New York. As Geeta Mohan was describing, the Indian American community very, very excited about the Prime Minister's visit. The Prime Minister gave an interview to the Wall Street Journal and spoke of India ready to play a much bigger role. Ambassador Kamboj also spoke of how there would be thousands of people who would be there at the United Nations headquarters at the International Yoga Day event. The Prime Minister would participate in the Yoga Day celebrations on the 21st of June. That is India's cultural heritage being gifted to the entire world around 4 o'clock tomorrow, Indian Standard Time, early in the morning in New York. That's the time when the event would take place. And we are told, apart from the UN Secretary General, several ambassadors and permanent representatives, diplomats and their families would be participating in this event. Geeta, again, when it comes to the International Yoga Day, this was the Prime Minister's initiative in 2014, and the way it's caught up at the UN and across the United States of America, it's huge. Okay, give me a moment as we re-establish that link with Geeta Mohan. Ambassador Sikri, International Yoga Day at UN headquarters. So India's soft power equally on display at the Prime Minister's visit this time.
Yes, I think that it's very symbolic, and it's hugely important that for the first time in 9 years, Prime Minister Modi is going to lead the celebrations of International Yoga Day in New York at the place at the UN where the resolution on International Yoga Day was adopted in 2014. So in 2014, when Prime Minister Modi first came into power, one of the earliest initiatives was this on the International Yoga Day. The resolution was presented at the UNGA. It received the largest number of co-sponsorships from other countries. It was virtually a unanimous resolution. And it was amazing to see how this touched a chord not only at the UN but all across the world, because increasingly over the last 9 years, the celebration of International Yoga Day is taking place in China, in Japan, in all across the world, all across Africa. It has resonated. It has brought people into remembering their health, what the good effects of yoga, how it makes them feel better, makes them feel happier, makes them feel at peace with themselves, and how yoga serves many, many purposes. And this for the first time in the last 9 years, Prime Minister Modi will be at the UN headquarters tomorrow morning, accompanied by almost every other country of the world. There will be hundreds of representatives with him, starting with the UN Secretary General, the President of the UN General Assembly, and many, many other dignitaries and representatives, ambassadors from other countries to the UN.
Stay with me for a moment, Geeta. Now that you're with us once again, describe to us the preparations at UN headquarters for the International Yoga Day celebrations. Apparently, there are over 2,000 invitations that have been sent out. Many more want to come in, we are told. Okay, again, we've lost that connection with Geeta Mohan, but give us a moment as we try and re-establish that. One aspect is India's soft power, and this is on display. Admiral Sinha, you were in the United States recently. The Indian American community, 5 million strong, 50 lakh people, they're often described as the glue that binds the two countries together. They're truly representatives of both the countries, sir.
Absolutely right, Gaurav. Any person or any community that I met, the one name which was, through all of them was Prime Minister Modi's name. They don't look at him as India's Prime Minister only. They look at him as a world leader, and they feel so proud to identify themselves with India. So I think that's a very big glue. And mind you, they are a very big, very influential even in the political circles. Both the Republicans and the Democrats, both these have got their own Indian constituency, and they want to woo them. And they make a lot of difference to their voting pattern and their winnability factor in their own constituencies, Gaurav.
All of this, is the American effort also to gradually wean India away from Russian weapons. Why do I bring this issue of Russian weapons and systems? Is because of this high-end technology that for the first time ever, General Hasnain is on offer to India. Is the effort to ensure that we we reduce our dependence on Russian military hardware? I believe it's down to close to between 45 and 50% right now. Do the Americans now hope that we'll buy more American weapons, or is our hope that more latest technology weapons will be made in India, sir?
See, Gaurav, it is quite obvious that the Ukraine war has sent home a very clear message that India is still tied with the apron strings of Russia as far as technologies and as far as weaponry is concerned. The supply chains are all from there. The United States realized that if this has to be a transformational relationship, if this trust has to be established, then it has to address India's concerns. And India's concerns are about transfer of technologies, about transformation, about modern weaponry, etc. It cannot happen that way without the Americans coming into this aspect. So that is one of the prime reasons why this particular visit is going to be transformational to that extent. Let me also answer, Gaurav, your question whether the Chinese are watching this with a lot of concern. Let me tell you, I think the Chinese have progressively observed India in the last 9 or 10 years. They have observed the leadership of our Prime Minister and realized that this is a new India, a transformational India, a India which is strategically getting more and more confident.
Okay.
And that is what worries the Chinese tremendously. All these images which are coming out from America today, in the next 3 days, are going to send home messages to China that the Indo-American relationship is getting stronger. India is getting more strategically confident, and that is going to keep them getting more and more worried.
And is
so
that why China may try, and Geeta Mohan joins us from New York. Geeta, we are told that China may try either through Pakistan, ISI or these Khalistani elements to spread a lot of misinformation, disinformation, half-truths and absolute lies through a pliant section of people on Chinese payroll, even in the United States of America, Geeta. That's a threat.
Well, that's right. When asked, the Foreign Secretary had said that security of and ensuring a smooth, the smooth process of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the United States of America is the responsibility of the host nation, which is the US. But over here, before I go on to the China factor, it is very interesting to see the people over here. One such person, quite a few of them actually, Gaurav, wearing jackets with Narendra Modi's picture on their jacket. So that's not just one individual, and the fact that they're all wearing cards, these are the cards that will allow them to enter the Prime Minister's hotel. So only a select few of these Indians will be allowed to enter the hotel and meet with the Prime Minister. In all probability, he might not stop outside this time. Also,
Geeta, give me a moment. I'm cutting across to the airport, the Indian American community at the airport, interacting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Let's quickly dip in for a moment.
बिल्कुल ये दृश्य हम आपको दिखा रहे हैं प्रधानमंत्री.
Some of the Indian Americans attempting to take selfies with the Prime Minister, some trying to shake hands with him, some trying to touch his feet. Members of the Bora community also there when the Prime Minister goes to Egypt, and that's when that's the second leg of the Prime Minister's visit. But for the moment, we'll stay on the US leg of the Prime Minister's visit. And once again, Geeta, take it away. The Indian American community out in large numbers. The Prime Minister's outreach to the Indian American community each time, from Madison Square Garden to San Francisco to NRG Stadium, Houston, Texas, it's always been big, Geeta.
Well, that's right. But this time around again, Gaurav, the substance is the important deliverables in Washington, D.C. The important business council meeting that he'll be addressing, there'll be about more than 900 to 1,000 delegates who he'll be addressing in Washington, D.C. He has some very important meetings today in New York with the top business honchos of America. We're being told that Elon Musk could be one of them. That certainly is going to be important. Boeing, Micron CEOs are also going to meet Prime Minister Modi. So a lot, and that's the reason why the Indian diaspora event for now is going to be not as massive as the Madison Square Garden one, but yes, nonetheless, it's going to be at the Ronald Reagan Center in Washington, D.C., and it could house at least 600 to 1,000 people from the diaspora. We're also given to understand that some of the U.S. lawmakers will also attend the event. So important, but there are outcomes and deliverables that we should be focusing on. Your question on China, Pakistan, and protests. Yes, Gaurav, there are protests that are being planned outside the White House. Every year when we come and we report on Prime Minister Modi, we see nowadays increased battle between Modi supporters and the protesters who are protesting, and expect that to happen outside the White House this time around as well. There are some lawmakers who could issue critical statements as well. But the Indian side and the American side, two questions on this, have made it very clear that that does not dampen the spirit of the visit, also does not dampen the substance of the visit, which is there are going to be key outcomes and deliverables on the defense front. India will push for manufacturing in India, sourcing from India if they're ordering from if the order is for India. America is going to push for a lot of defense cooperation, particularly the Predator drones, which in itself is about $3 billion, and the GE F414 jet engine deal. That could also mean cooperation between the two sides with manufacturing in India. So a lot on the anvil when it comes to the visit itself. There are a lot of important statements that have already been made by various senators, various lawmakers and congressmen in Washington, D.C. on how they look forward to the visit. But lastly, Gaurav, a lot of them have been talking about shared values, and I keep repeating this over and over again, not to harp on values, shared values, even if that's not the case. There are shared interests, and India has become a very important part of the geostrategic coordination and alliance of various countries to counter aggression by other countries, particularly
Geeta, stay
China.
with me. Okay, stay with me. Are there pitfalls in this relationship, or have we, in the past 20 years, post-1999, been able to ensure that this relationship is not transactional but transformational? Ambassador Sikri, for example, you know, the India-US relationship was taking off, and suddenly after the Pokhran tests, you had sanctions, and as Admiral Sinha will tell us better, our Sea Harriers and Sea Kings were grounded. Is there an apprehension if we get too close to the Americans, we could get singed again by sanctions should there be an event that America is not on the same page with India?
No, I think that there is definitely an important maturity in the relationship. By which I mean that we are able to respect each other's differences in points of view. We value the issues on which we have a shared point of view, and this platter is very, very big indeed. It's growing where we have a shared point of view, but where there are differences, we are able to overcome them. You spoke about the Pokhran tests. Now, that was, it elicited a lot of strong response from the USA. There were sanctions and so on. But then the same President Clinton also played his own role in strengthening the relationship.
Yes.
And ever since then, it's been growing. Now, again, in 2008, when the civil nuclear deal was concluded, it was, again, a very important, significant breakthrough in the relationship. But after that, there were difficulties. There were difficulties in implementation, the issue of sovereign guarantees and so on, and that spluttered a bit. But then again, after 2014, we have seen a new revival. We have seen a new growth, and a growth this time on a very mature basis, because we are seeing that Prime Minister Modi is inviting American business to come and invest in India. He's willing to ease up, and he has eased up the conditions of doing business in India, and India has jumped by a huge number of points in the global rankings on ease of doing business. And also he's jumped, he's given production-linked incentives in special areas so that foreign investors will find it easy to come and to invest in India. But also we have kept the importance of transfer of technology. So we've seen now in the GE deal coming up, this transfer of technology aspect is important, and we've achieved that as well. So that helps India's Atmanirbharta campaign. It helps our self-reliance program. So you see, at every stage, there is a meeting of the minds, and there is a mutual benefit in whatever we are doing. And this mutual benefit is important because that is what keeps the relationship going. It cannot be one-sided. It has to have benefit for both sides. And we've seen that this is definitely there. We've seen that the, after decades of the US-China relationship, being on a rosy cloud nine, as it were, they've come down to earth and recognize the realities of that. So in that, they have been able to recognize the importance of developing democratic support in countries like India to strengthen the US-India relationship. We've seen Admiral Sinha has correctly spoken about the tremendous amount of, since the Malabar exercises, how these have grown from strength to strength. We've done the Lamoa with the USA on logistics. We've done the POMCASA on interoperability of defense forces. We've done the BECA on geospatial data. So many important agreements, again, at every stage in mutual benefit to both countries.